Welcome back, Nerd Squad. With Jennifer Walters, you almost get two sides of a coin: She-Hulk and Jen. Jen is usually seen as being less confident, more reserved, and slightly more level-headed. She-Hulk is indomitable and a force to be reckoned with, confident, playful, and sexy. Over the years, Jen has come to realize that She-Hulk is as much a part of her as anything, and is actually part of her identity. Overall, both sides of her are strong, smart, sexy, and powerful in her mind. This has also been a recurring theme that she has explored throughout her relationships. Today we're going to take a look at some of those relationships and how they shaped Jen's character as we count down the top 10 superheroes She-Hulk has hooked up with. Be sure to stick around till the end of this video to see if any of your previous comments will get a shout out. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10. Star Fox. These two were so weird in the comics, and definitely the writing of how this all kind of came about is something I feel like most of us would just like to forget, which is why they are ranked so low. The two had a fling one night when they were both Avengers. Jen even described the sex as being amazing, but later she reminisces about her night with Star Fox while defending him in a sexual assault case. She begins to worry through hearing a woman's testimony that he has used his powers and influence on her to make her fall for him. It turned out that he hadn't done that, but something just as bad. He had manipulated her into falling for someone else. He was of course just doing it because he wanted to see Jen happy, but manipulating someone into having feelings for another person, which later results in them getting married, is never really a good look, especially on someone who is supposed to be a hero like Eros. What were you thinking, Star Fox? What were you thinking? Number 9. Man-Wolf. She-Hulk and Man-Wolf had a brief and rocky romance which later became a full-blown love story to them, who were both under the influence of Eros. Star Fox made the two of them fall in love, and they both became obsessed with one another. She-Hulk even went so far as to try and stay in her human form when she was around John, who preferred her that way. The two eloped, but when Jen found out the truth behind why they really loved one another, she immediately wanted a divorce, finally understanding why her and John also had so many unresolvable disagreements, yet somehow decided to stay together. John wanted to give it another go, saying that he still loved Jen, but she refused to give in, claiming that really they had never loved one another, leaving Man-Wolf, aka John Jonah Jameson III, with no options but to sign the divorce papers. I get it though, She-Hulk's pretty awesome, I'd want to hold on to that too. Number 8. Richard Rory. While Richard may not be a hero in the super sense, he has worked heroically to try and protect the monstrous hero Man-Thing after an encounter with him left Rory forever changed. Richard was originally a DJ for a radio station in Florida who always seemed to find himself down on his luck. Again, not a great pick when it comes to partners for Jen, but definitely one that briefly happened. These two ran into each other in the streets of Las Vegas, and Rory offered Jennifer Walters a ride after he suspected that she had had a run-in with the terrifying She-Hulk. She originally turned him down until she saw his sweet ride, which was limo. Rory had just won a ton of money at the casino and was currently quite well off. Jen decided to go with Richard. Richard is a pessimist who feels he always has bad luck, and as such this makes him pretty mopey, and we usually see anything that happens to him in a negative mindset as a result. Although Richard may have not been great for Jen was pretty good for him, offering that Richard's main problem was actually that he just had an unhealthy self-image. The two parted ways after an adventure involving the Man-Thing, though they would run into each other a couple more times in the comics. They parted with a kiss. Number 7. Clay Quartermain. Clay was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and led the Hulkbusters at one point. He recruited She-Hulk for S.H.I.E.L.D. when she was called in after being a registered superhuman under the Superhuman Registration Act. Shortly after joining up, Clay called She-Hulk Mrs. Jameson, using her former married name. She corrected him, saying that she had actually reverted back to Walters after her divorce. Hearing she was divorced, Clay became intrigued, and it's implied that he put a move on her. She-Hulk did end up sleeping with him, though she seems to express some remorse after, thinking to herself that Jennifer Walters would not have done that, but as She-Hulk, she does what she wants, when she wants, and with whom she wants. However, it also seemed that her decision to sleep with Quartermain left her questioning her own sense of self, and caused her to look in the mirror and face an emptiness that seemed to be eating away inside her. And Hawkeye. In the What If series Volume 2, Issue 114, we get to examine a world where heroes and villains stayed on Battleworld during the events of the original Secret Wars, laid down their arms, and ended up basically retiring and settling down. One of the oddest couples to come out of this What If story was She-Hulk and Hawkeye, who had a son named CJ, who was green with his mom's strength, but the skill of his dad when it came to being a crack shot. How these two came together exactly, we'll never know, but hey, at least they weren't quite as strange as the pairing of Captain America and Rogue, so there's that. Number 5. Iron Man. Oddly enough, someone else who also has a romantic history with She-Hulk tried to stop this from happening, Clay Quartermain. Tony appears and offers to debrief She-Hulk, revealing a candlelit dinner setting in a room on the helicarrier, despite the fact that Quartermain insists that he should be the one doing any debriefing. Tony Stark and She-Hulk end up in bed together after the debriefing, if there was one at all, and actually begin to have a fairly interesting conversation. She-Hulk inquires as to how Tony manages to sleep around, expanding that when she does it, she's labeled as a skank, but when he does it, he is glorified as a player. Tony is about to answer and provide Jennifer with his insight when the helicarrier is attacked, detracting what could have been undoubtedly a very interesting conversation between the two supers. Number 4. Hercules. She-Hulk has had a thing for Hercules for a while in the comics. She's fantasized about him on more than one occasion and fought alongside him. In one instance, he made an appearance in Volume 2, Issue 30 of She-Hulk, where the two got up to more than just a fantasy, and more than just fighting. She-Hulk teamed up to help Hercules take down a Celtic god, which ended up with the two of them alone together in an ambulance. They got to talking apparently, and one thing led to another. Before Jen knew it, she was resting in the arms of a god after finally getting to sleep with him. She knew it wasn't going to end up anywhere, but she was pretty fine with that. One thing I've always loved about She-Hulk is how much she just owns her own sexuality. So cool to see that in comics in general. Number 3. Thor. More recently in the comics, She-Hulk and Thor have been a thing, which has excited many fans. Both heroes are known for their strength, making this superhero duo quite the power couple. Originally, Jen was worried about having a crush on Thor. She feared that he only liked her for her She-Hulk form, but in Avengers Volume 8, she and Thor have a heart-to-heart. Just as Jen is ready to walk out on Thor, he confesses his feelings, admitting he is enamored by the She-Hulk, but who he really wants to know is the She inside, who he feels he has distance from. He wants to know Jen's desires and thoughts and fall in love with them. The two seal the deal with a kiss. Aww. I also love how that all starts with Thor being like, I'm terrible with words. And then he's like, JK, I just nailed it. Number 2. Wyatt Wingfoot. She-Hulk met Wyatt during her time on the Fantastic Four roster when she was standing in for Ben Grimm. The team had a run-in with Wyatt and his tribe. But Wyatt Wingfoot is not superpowered. He has acted as an ally to both the Fantastic Four and She-Hulk herself on her own adventures. He often also acts as a hero when it comes to protecting his tribe, the Kiwazi. Sorry if I say that wrong. Jennifer and Wyatt quickly begin a romance that would span over decades in the comics. She met his parents, he attended law school, and even at one point proposed to her. Unfortunately, later his own duties as chief of the Kiwazi tribe and ensuring the tribe's safety would oftentimes keep him away from her. Still, the two's on and off again relationship has been revisited as late as the 2000s and as early as the 1980s. That's a long relationship. Number 1. Luke Cage. So, I know Luke Cage is destined to be with Jessica Jones, and I love the two of them together, but She-Hulk and Luke Cage had some of the cutest chemistry that I've ever seen in comics. They both worked together in Heroes for Hire, and it was during She-Hulk's time there that Luke Cage won a date with her by betting that he could get to the control room of a building before she could. He won running through the walls to get there, and She-Hulk agreed to go on a date with Luke. He and Jen just have some great dialogue during their time together in the 90s. She-Hulk is quite sassy, and they both seem to challenge each other in the best of ways, causing one another to reflect on their world views. They push each other to be better too, and are both tough enough to survive getting romantic with the other. Short-lived romance. Bring it back. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you learned about some of She-Hulk's romantic partners, and through that got to learn even more about her. Our relationships with others really can be quite telling. Who do you ship with She-Hulk? Do you have a favorite superhero that you'd like to see her paired up with that she has yet to connect with? Do you think that she and Wolverine will ever be a thing? Let us know in the comments below. And speaking of comments, let's take a look at some comments from my video Top 10 Superpowers You Didn't Know Wolverine Had. Lord Lysius comments, "To this day I still don't know how they ever tried to say that Logan's head was able to transform into the werewolf form when his skull is encased in freaking adamantium, and as such it doesn't have much freedom to change shape. LMAO. Good point. My theory is that transforming into a werewolf just heats up his body temperature so much that it allows even his adamantium to melt and remold with his changing bone structure. Either that or it's comic book magic. Panda says, came for the Logan, stayed for that epic Stop Wars shirt. Thanks Panda, I love that shirt too. Such a fun play on the title Star Wars. And also such a real statement. Let's all aim to get along, understand one another better, and end conflict, even if we can only affect it at a small scale. That's all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring our bell if you haven't already for all of the sweet, sweet, nerdy notifications. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you, as always, to stay nerdy, YouTube.